Ever noticed how you see diesel trucks everywhere, but almost no diesel motorcycles? It's a curious mystery. Diesel engines power big rigs, buses, even some cars. So why not our two-wheeled machines? In this short video, we'll explore the key reasons diesel motorcycles are so rare. From hefty engine weight to bone-rattling vibration, from performance trade-offs to simple lack of demand, we'll find out why diesel bikes never became a common sight. Stick around to learn why your motorcycle runs on gasoline, not diesel. Reason number 1. Diesel engines are heavy and bulky. One major reason is weight. Diesel engines are built like tanks, literally. They run at very high compression, which means thicker metal parts, cylinder walls, pistons, etc., to handle the pressure. All that beefy construction makes the engine heavier and bulkier than an equivalent gasoline engine. And in a motorcycle, extra weight is a big problem. Motorcycles need to be light and nimble for good handling. Adding a heavy diesel engine is like carrying a big passenger, or two, all the time. It would make the bike feel sluggish in corners and slow to accelerate. Modern bike makers put a lot of effort into reducing weight, so a heavy engine goes against the grain. In short, a diesel engine's sturdiness becomes a downside on a motorcycle. It's too much of a good thing in the weight department. Number 2. They shake, rattle, and stall. Another big issue is vibration and smoothness. Diesel engines tend to shake a lot more than gasoline engines. This is partly due to how they work. Instead of a spark plug igniting the fuel, diesels use compression ignition. The fuel-air mix ignites just from being squeezed really hard. That process isn't as gentle or precise, so each combustion stroke can be a mini earthquake. In a car or truck, engineers can isolate and dampen the engine's vibration with special mounts and a heavy frame. But on a motorcycle, you don't have much space or weight to absorb those shakes. The result? A diesel bike would buzz and vibrate so much that riding it could quickly numb your hands. Gasoline bikes, by contrast, run smoother because their controlled spark ignition gives a more even, predictable power pulse. Riders usually love the smooth revving and refinement of their engines. A clattery diesel that vibrates at low RPM would feel and sound out of character on a bike. Number 3. Fuel efficiency versus performance trade-off. Diesel engines are famous for fuel efficiency. This is one area where a diesel motorcycle would shine. It could go much farther on a tank of fuel. For example, a diesel-converted Kawasaki KLR 650 used by the military achieved roughly double the mileage of its gasoline counterpart. That means fewer stops at the pump, which is great. But there's a catch. The trade-off for that fuel sipping is reduced performance. Motorcycles are expected to be peppy and quick, but diesels generally have lower horsepower and slower acceleration for a given size. They make great torque, pulling power at low revs, but they don't rev high enough to produce the kind of top-end power bikers crave. In fact, most diesel engines redline around 4,000 to 5,000 revolutions per minute, whereas bike engines often scream to 10,000 plus RPM. This means a diesel bike usually accelerates like a tractor, slow and steady rather than zipping off the line. One real-world example was the Royal Enfield Taurus in India, a 325cc diesel bike. It got amazing mileage, but made only 6.5 horsepower and topped out at about 65 kilometers per h. Not exactly the thrilling performance most riders want. So even though a diesel bike could save fuel, it would likely feel too slow and boring to ride for many motorcyclists, unless it had a turbo or other tricks to boost power. Number 4. Hardly anyone wants one. Let's face it, motorcycle enthusiasts aren't begging for diesel bikes. The market demand just isn't there. Why not? Because all the supposed advantages of diesel, better mileage, high torque, durability, don't align with what most riders are looking for in a bike. Riders tend to prioritize quick acceleration, lighter weight, and enjoyable engine sound areas where gasoline engines excel and diesels falter. Manufacturers know this. Developing a whole new diesel bike would be expensive, and if the core customer base isn't interested, it's a tough sell. As Cycle World pointed out, the problem is that diesel's benefits are at odds with typical motorcycle priorities. You might get some extra range or use cheaper fuel, but you'd sacrifice speed, agility, and maybe even that sporty exhaust note. For most buyers, that trade-off just doesn't make sense, so companies stick to what works: gas engines, or now electric. In fact, with electric motorcycles emerging as the next big thing, bike makers have even less incentive to experiment with diesel. Simply put, no one asked for diesel bikes, so manufacturers never made them in any significant numbers. Rare examples of diesel motorcycles: a diesel-powered Kawasaki KLR 650 used by the US Marine Corps is one of the few diesel motorcycles ever produced. Believe it or not, a handful of diesel bikes have been built over the years, mainly as special purpose machines or limited experiments. The bike pictured above is the M1030 M1, a military motorcycle developed for the US Marines. It's essentially a Kawasaki KLR 650, modified to run on diesel or jet fuel. Why the military interest? It allowed troops to use the same fuel for every vehicle, simplifying logistics. The M1030 M1 could sip fuel at an impressive rate, reports of 2.5 L/100 km, and still get the job done off-road. In the civilian world, one of the best-known diesel bikes was the earlier mentioned Royal Enfield Taurus in India. This 1990s 325cc diesel motorcycle was prized for its remarkable fuel economy, reportedly around 85-90 mpg, but it was painfully underpowered, 6.5 GP, and was eventually discontinued due to its underwhelming performance. Other niche examples include the Track T800 CDI from the Netherlands, an adventure bike powered by an 800cc 3-cylinder, Mercedes turbo diesel engine, and the Neander turbo diesel from Germany, a limited production cruiser featuring a twin-cylinder turbocharged diesel with massive torque. These bikes garnered interest as technical novelties, but they remained extremely rare. They were either too expensive, too heavy, or too specialized to ever gain mainstream popularity. Essentially, diesel motorcycles ended up as quirky outliers in bike history. Cool to read about, but almost unicorns in the real world.